Rugby World Rankings, folks. There's only 2 games left in the Autumn Nation series, so most people's numbers are locked in for 2022. But we'll go through the rankings. Where did the teams finish up? Remember, as I said, there's still 2 games to go. Wales, Australia, England, South Africa. Still to go one more round. But, you guys can let us know how fair or not you think the rankings are. And, we'll go from there. So, Ireland, guaranteed to finish the year top dog. They had a good win. Hard-fought win over the Aussies at the weekend. Didn't see any points changes because the gap between them and Australia is too much. But well done, Ireland, finishing the year top dog is a bit of an achievement. Plus, you managed to get World Player of the Year winner as well in Josh van der Flier. So it's been a pretty solid year in Irish rugby, I think you'd have to say. France, despite their perfect year in terms of winning every single test they played, which I think was a first for them, not quite enough to pip the Irish. Remember, they were kind of starting from a little bit of a deficit, I guess, on the Irish at the start of the year. And the Irish, despite the fact they dropped a couple of games, certainly had a harder July tour with their win over the All Blacks, 2-1, whereas France played 2 games in Japan. So, different schedules, but still, France and Ireland, I think, if you were going to draw like a natural dividing line, do seem to be the top 2 teams at the moment. You might have put the All Blacks in that same category. I mean, just looking at the points, there's not that much of a gap between 1 and 2 and then 3 and 4, but the fact that the All Blacks blew that big lead against England means they've dropped from 89.15 to 88.98. So they were higher ranked than England, so England ended up taking points off the All Blacks for the draw. So there you go. Maybe that was all Eddie's master plan. But that's just kind of the way the All Blacks season ends, on a bit of a whimper. But still, the tour is, I don't know, it's certainly not all doom and gloom that it was only a few months ago. South Africa, with their big win over the Italians, actually did manage to take some points off them, up from 87.81, so not huge points because there's a huge gap between them and the Italians, so the amount they can take is limited, but it's a win. Remembering they've still got 1 game to go, and that game is against England, who are 84.62. England, like I mentioned, took a little bit off New Zealand with the draw, but not enough to move from their 5th spot. So the fact that it's 4 against 5, it's going to be a fascinating one to watch, although keeping in mind that some players won't be available with this upcoming weekend's matches being outside the test window. Scotland, a big winner with their win over Argentina. It was such a big win. They've gone all the way up from 9th into 6th. That's how close the teams are in that kind of section, so you can jump that many spots, up from, what was it, 80.23 to 81.55. So not a bad way for the Scots to finish their season as well. I feel like their Autumn Nation series has been a pretty successful campaign. Narrow loss to the Wallabies, followed by win over Fiji, close loss to the All Blacks, and then a big win over Argentina. So I think it certainly could have gone worse. I think it's overall positive. Argentina certainly up and down. They've dropped a spot with their loss. And the Wallabies, as I mentioned, didn't lose any points with their loss to Ireland. So just kind of sitting there in 8th. Wales, sadly, are the big losers. Sorry, Wales. Down from 7th spot into 9th with that loss to Georgia. They kind of got hammered, down from 81.26 to 79.26. So a lot of hard kind of questions, I think, being asked of Wayne Pivac at the moment. Still got 1 game to go. Maybe if they win over the Aussies, that kind of papers over some of the cracks that have been appearing, but we'll see. Japan didn't lose anything with their loss to the French. Samoa are actually up. They had a good win over Romania. I think it was like 22-0. So Samoa's 2022 generally, I think, has been pretty successful. Remember, they won the Pacific Nations Cup and had a couple of good wins on tour. Although they did lose a big one to Italy, who they ranked above. Italy with that loss to the Springboks drop. Georgia with the win over the Welsh, closing the gap down on their Italian rivals, so up from 73.19 are the Georgians, so well done to them. Fiji dropped because they were passed by Georgia, but they didn't do anything wrong. Remember, they played the French Barbars and got a win in that game, but with that being an exhibition game, essentially doesn't count for anything in terms of world rankings points. Tonga managed to get a win over Uruguay 43-19, so pretty convincing. And then there's Spain. Welcome back, Spain. After dropping off the board for a week with Uruguay losing, they drop off the board into 17th, and Spain are the beneficiaries there. Also, just off the board, I think we need to say a big congratulations to Portugal, who, with their draw against the USA, managed to qualify for the Rugby World Cup 2023. They are the last team to qualify. It means the USA are out. Portugal is in. If you're asking how did they get through on a draw, well, it was a 3-game series for each team. Hong Kong, Kenya, Portugal and USA, and both Portugal and USA beat Kenya and Hong Kong. Portugal had a better points difference in their first 2 games, so that was enough to knock out the Americans when it all came down to a last kick and ended in a draw. So well done, Portugal. Commiserations to the US. I mentioned these games this weekend, so Wales against Australia. Wales can come back onto this side of the board if they win. They could go 8th. The Wallabies, I think, could go as high as 6th if they win, because they'll be away from home, so it's a good chance for them to take more points. But the Wallabies would also swap places with Wales if they lose, so there's a potential for Dave Rennie's boys to finish on that side of the board. And remember, their injury list got about 5 names longer after the last game. England and South Africa, I don't think England's going to move. They're kind of in this awkward spot where they're too far behind the box and too far ahead of the Scots. That win, lose, or draw, they're still going to be 5th come the end of the year. The Box, I think, would need a pretty big win over England to pass the All Blacks. I think they need a 16-point or more win to end the season anywhere other than 4th. Are you guys going to watch the Football World Cup, which is on at the moment? I will admit to having watched a little bit, mostly highlights. But as the rugby winds down, it's not the end of the rugby season, because remember, you get the URC, you got the Premiership, the Japanese season's kicking off. We'll be getting into Super Rugby pre-season. So, yeah, there's certainly going to be plenty other rugby on after the 2 games at the weekend are done. It'll just be done in terms of international action until the Six Nations. But yeah, you guys going to watch the football, or do you not watch the football? Remember how I always go on about ExpressVPN? If you want to watch the football on like ITV or BBC, get ExpressVPN down in the description. That's how I have been watching the Football World Cup. So happy days. You guys let us know your thoughts. And it's for free, which is the kind of benefit. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.